Yes.
Again, I go back to what I said here at Talk Shop. None of us in this place here, I thank you very much for your contribution, but I regret to inform you it's such a waste of space, because none of us here are going to do anything about it. Not even this organization, not as individuals. Nobody is going to talk about what we do about the debt of Zimbabwe when we know we are not even involved, our opinions are not considered by the present governmental institution. You need to have a government that you can trust in order to talk about these things. And none of us here, we talked about investment earlier on and said, I would not invest my money in Zimbabwe now, substantial amounts, because I'm not sure how safe it will be. Now, how can I talk about the 7 billion that Zimbabwe owes with a government that doesn't listen to me? I mean, it's all very well for you to make recommendations. Perhaps this should not be spoken in an open forum like this, because it is genuinely a waste of space. Maybe a committee, a small select committee of intellectuals, economists and so forth can get together to form part of the diaspora situation and make their recommendations. Because we are not going to, I mean, we can talk about it. We'll meet again on the 11th, talk about this thing. Yes, we should, government should tell us what they've done with the 7 billion. Government has stolen the money and you know it, but you don't have the guts to say it.
If I may, please.
Okay.
I think, thank you very much, Mr. Samgango, for your contribution. I think I would like to say something, perhaps not in defense of the whole ZDFG setup. I think your view is only one amongst many views. So if we accept that as the starting position, we then have a situation where some people believe that there is cause to fight. I mean, if you take a pessimistic view, such as the one you've taken, it means that would be waiting, or would have been waiting since 1980. If you are skeptical about the party that was coming in, or about independence and ZANU-PF, and the whole thing about running our own affairs, you would have always stayed away and said, oh, we are not sure about these people. You know, they have no experience, they haven't actually run any government before, so how can we trust them to run the business, or to run a government? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there will be people with a different view. I think it's unfair for you to say none of us are going to do anything about it, because certainly some of us will be doing something about it. We will be campaigning to have some of this debt cancelled, because it ultimately, we believe, it's a question of belief, isn't it? What you believe and what you don't. So we can't force people to think about or to have the same views as us, but we can share the views. And those who take a very different view might want to take a very different course of action. So, and can I also say, and I think this is quite true of the other views that have been expressed here, about the pessimism about the environment back home and so on and so forth. Now that might obtain, say, for the next 50 years. Are you going then to say nothing should be done? There are other people with a very different view who say, look, we need to be active. It's not, there's not a one silver bullet that you're going to send to Zimbabwe to solve the problem about the environment, for example. So it's a multifaceted approach. We've got people doing debt campaign. We've got people trying to solve the political situation, you know, civic groups, political groups, and so on and so forth. So it's people are approaching these things from different ideological viewpoints and from different value points as well. So I think that must be the first thing. The second thing is about, we all, as Zimbabweans, I think there's a culture of accepting a lot of hearsay and rumor and conjecture. So we can't differentiate between, at times, not all the time, we can't differentiate between fact and fiction. So, for example, what am I saying? Anything that you need to take to a court, you need evidence before you say a lot of the things that a lot of people say. So people say, oh, well, we've had a lot of people who have tried to start businesses and so on and so forth. Well, where is the evidence? The same thing happened until people started to get deported. The Home Office, and if someone had taken a view that, oh, the Home Office won't listen to you anyway, we are just a small Zimbabwean minority in this country in terms of diaspora groups in the UK. Home Office will not listen to you, but the Home Office were listening. Some of us were going around those tables and they said, well, give us the evidence about people being tortured, for example. Give us the evidence. And yet they are actually collecting evidence of people going through Zimbabwe, through South Africa, into Zimbabwe. You understand? And so they are collecting the evidence to say, well, you're not at risk. for example. So I'm just giving an example that we need to come forward with evidence so that we can actually begin to have an impact. So an example of what Tamu was talking about, you had a problem as a collective, as a Zimbabwe, through the ZDFG, and not just through the ZDFG. You can set up another organization that does the same thing. Come as a collective, bring the evidence and say, well, we have got evidence here. Take it to the embassy and say, we've got 100 people now. They've tried to start MJM Motors. This one's trying to start Chinyarazo Children's Home. These are their narratives. This is what actually happened. Now, can you do something about these issues? Otherwise, we can't talk about investment. Then they've got something to work with. If we just say, well, you know, Zimbabwe, no one is going to do anything, then we are doing ourselves a disservice. We need to move away from that mindset and move towards a more professional approach to how we manage our affairs. So give us the evidence, let's formulate plans, let's have a strategy in place, and let's try and work that strategy. That is how things are done even in this society that we live in. We can't just shout from rooftops and say this is what's gone wrong. We can all talk about what's gone wrong. Everyone is very good at telling us what has gone wrong, but they can't tell us about what we can do to put it right. So it's about risk. If you want to invest, there's an element of risk. Everybody knows that in investment. So it's up to you to make a decision, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about hometown associations and the actions that we can take. Those who believe that they can do something, they can make a change. Those that want to do it can do that.
Right. I'm going to take, again, 3 questions for the next 5 minutes. The lady there, the gentleman there, and there is a gentleman there. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to say that sometimes I'm a very optimistic person. And when you introduced this group, I've heard about it, but this is my first time to attend. I believe as Zimbabweans, this is our forum for us to chart the way forward as far as our country is concerned. So I believe what you are doing is the right thing. And if only we as Zimbabweans would really come together, I don't agree with you forming another group, because that is not going to help. It means we'll be divided again, just like what happened back home. If the MDCs had not split, we would be somewhere right now. So I believe what you are doing is the right thing. What you then need to do is to gather us together. Let us discuss. Let us play our role. We need to make our contribution. If they don't listen, tomorrow we have got a finger to point at them to say, we told you, but you did not listen. So I don't believe that for us to leave things just because things have been going wrong at home most of the time, and then we sit back and forget about it, it's not going to be helpful to us. So I believe you are the group which should really stand strong and help us to push things forward. Thank you.
Yeah? Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. The only thing I've seen quite a lot is we Zimbabwe put our country down all the time. Zimbabwe has done this, Zimbabwe has done this. Me, I've been here for quite a while. I've learned a lot about this country. What's going home, what's happening home, I haven't been home for a while. But I think those guys back home, whatever they're doing, when I look at what's going on in Europe, what's going on in this country, I appreciate what this country has done to me. One thing we need to know is what is IMF? Who created it? When this money goes to Africa, it does have conditions. So what I can say is, what these guys are doing with people, for me, I've been an MD supporter for a long time. But these guys, they've created another foundation for us, which might be bad, which might be good. So what we need is to take it from there. So what we are doing now is very good. Let's put all ideas together so that when we go back home, one day we will go back home. So those guys, whatever they are doing, one day they will be gone. It will be for us to take from what they've left and do what is right. Thank you very much.
Not correction, or just to enlighten people. The Zimbabwe Diaspora Focus Group is an a political organization. We do appreciate that some of us here are affiliated to certain political parties. May I say that when we talk, let's not highlight one political party because not all of us belong to that one political party, yeah? For the good of the conversation. But thank you so much for your contribution. The gentleman here, and then I'll take the other 3 questions after. Yeah?
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Innocent. I represent millions of the unemployed in Zimbabwe. I think if there is anyone who is so much interested to see business grow in Zimbabwe, I think I'm one of those people because we need people to invest, we need people to create jobs in the country. I think what I wanted to contribute really in terms of the debt campaign. I think I think as Zimbabweans, we need to look into these things in a very deep, unbiased and critical manner to understand really deeper why we are where we are, why we've got this debt. I think you'll be shocked to actually find that some of the debt was inherited, some of the debt actually was way before we attained our independence. So this debt is continuing, accruing and even contributing to the poor credit rating that our country has got. So this is more or less like a vicious circle that we are in. So I think we need to really look into this debt campaign. So I'm very much interested as a person representing the unemployed, because what this means is that the government, to a certain extent, is unable to function or to create, employment or to, move forward, because there is this revolving, door of debt. So I think I encourage that as Zimbabweans, let's look into these things in a more critical. I think what the other gentleman said in terms of us as Zimbabwean painting our country, bad. I think we've got this thing. I think, look, things are not, I think things are not as bad as sometimes we make them look. I think things, yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are things that we may want to see, change in our country. But I think we should not concentrate on what is bad. There are good things that are happening in Zimbabwe. There are good things that Zimbabwe is doing in terms of, business, even to the extent of human rights themselves. There are good things that are happening. We are not just a bad country. I think I've been to a platform where, investors gather to talk about Zimbabwe. And when you look around, you don't even see one Zimbabwean. You see maybe a few Zimbabweans. We don't go to these platforms so that we can articulate the case for our country, so that we can actually, take possession of our country. For me, what I'll say lastly is that we've got children, as we speak, as young as 9, going around the street hustling for school fees, trying to pay their way to the future. And here we are sitting saying, okay, let's fold our hands. Let's wait, let's watch and see until things improve. That's when we're gonna, go and, invest. No, I don't think that. I'm totally against that. I think what we should be doing, as Mr. Joe said, we should be saying, as generation, the generation that is forward-looking, forward-thinking, we take authority to correct certain issues that are not going the way that we would like to see, and assist our country move forward. I think that's what I can say.
Questions? gentleman there, and any ladies? The lady and the gentleman at the corner. Yeah. Is that all right. It's fine.
Investment ya muntu awayini unofamba sei zvino hamusi kunyatso muri kuda kutanga nepfungwa dzekutaura chokwadi kuti lets form hatitauri zvekumba zvamuri kunyatsoziva kuti not izvozvo munonyatsoziva kuti how can you put your money in a broken pocket to just drop. You try to solve these things, but they will just fall apart. So I'm just thought, how can we think about this issue? That's the way forward. You don't create new jobs as number company.
Can I have the rest of the questions and then you will answer? There was one lady and the gentleman. Yeah. Lady. Yeah. You wanted to ask a question?
No, I did not ask. I just wanted to make a contribution.
Oh, all right. That's fine.
Yeah. Zimbabwe is unique. There's a lot of things that we cannot solve. But what I'm encouraged about is finding solutions to investment. That's what I'm interested in, because like you're saying, children as young as 9 years looking for money to go to school. At the same time, we've got children who are graduating at the universities, all the universities in Zimbabwe, and they have no jobs. And if we sit back and do nothing about it, I don't think we're doing anything, because not everyone has got the opportunity to get out of the country. Otherwise, there will be no Zimbabwe at all to talk about. As a mother, I'm really thinking of the children that have been educated and they cannot make ends meet with the degree, and it's just sad. And this is something that I'm looking at. It's positive in a way that we are looking at investments, manufacturing, and so on. Just getting those children to do something. But politicians can deal with politics. I'm not a politician, so I can't talk about that. I can't talk about even the environment or whatever. But if there's a way of, progressing in the investment area, that's what I'm up for.
Thank you for your contribution. Gentlemen.
My name is Thomas from Zimbabwe Association of Judges. And my concern is mostly when we're talking about investment in Zimbabwe is what is your link with the current government or the ministers, or what is happening on the ground in Zimbabwe? Do you have any link at all? Or whatever contribution you have, is it reaching where it's supposed to go? Or is this a clandestine thing that we're doing alone here? So that when the situation is okay, we'll go and address our situation and give them our information and whatever we've got. Because if I remember very well, those who attended the meeting we had the Minister of Finance at University of Manchester about a year and a half ago, he said he didn't know who owned the mines in Chiato. He had no idea who was registered in those mines. These were words from Tetaibet, representing Zimbabwe. It's a very big forum we had at the University of Manchester. And he said only 3 mines in the whole country, including one, submitted tax returns in the year. So what is it? What are we doing now, or what we are doing now? Is this linked to the things happening on the ground in Zimbabwe, or this is just a clandestine thing that we do now?
Thank you, sir. Maybe if I can just respond slightly to your question. We have the representative of investment here from the Zimbabwe Embassy who explained to us how, if you want to do any investment back home, and how they can channel them effectively so that something happens on the ground. But you expand if you want to expand. You wanted to respond.
Oh, yeah, but I thought
You
let
want
him
to say-
respond to
yeah.
him first.
The quick point to say, there's something about information dissemination.
Yeah.
We're working on a website where we can try to consolidate that, the people can also put their inputs.
No.
Then also, in terms of how to practically make money, risk-free, or with minimal risk, look at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, for example. If you put in £1 soon after dollarization, around March 2009, it would be worth £4 right now. Stock exchange has grown by about 400%. Last year, the company with the highest growth rate had about 130% increase in share price. So this is simply a process where you put money in well-performing companies and you're guaranteed of return. So we are the stock exchange with the highest growth rate in the world. And these are some of the opportunities we should look at, because that is how you can actually check the barometer of economic growth. It's a question of picking. If you like Delta, if you like Econet, you like mining companies, you can go there and actually have a stake in the economy through the stock exchange.
Right. I'll try to be very quick. I'll try to address most of the questions that have been asked in one way, and that way is that economic development in most parts in the world is associated with the citizens having power and being able to hold politicians to account effectively. I think this young man, Ndibali, was being modest, because Samkange was talking about talk shows and no evidence of action. If there's one young man who could bear testimony to action on the ground that makes a practical difference, it would be that young man who was talking about a 9-year-old seeking school fees in the streets in Zimbabwe. Because he was in Zimbabwe, they started the organization to represent unemployed people, which is about 90% of the population in Zimbabwe. And what Zupa has done in a year is surprising. Because things like the community trust, you have heard about the community trust, where everyone in a community, in a district, if you go to Zvishavani, Mimosa mines, they are mining in Zvishavani, isn't it? The idea was coming from these guys who said everyone must benefit from the resources within that community. And those things are happening. And I think the question here is, if you have 3 million unemployed youths in Zimbabwe, we have no future and no hope, and a politician who wants to be voted in the next time, who has access to a few dollars, is it not easy for that politician to approach these young people and say to them, I will give you money if you do this for me? And there is evidence and research that violence is more in areas where people are impoverished and they've got no hope. The only means of survival is for them to do anything that is there. If you go to a street in Calcutta, you'll find that the children go to these slums. That is the only way they know how to survive. If you create an environment in Zimbabwe where all the youths are unemployed and they've got no future, the only way they know is to survive through whatever provision will come their way, even if it means them committing violence. And when you talk to them later, they tell you, I never wanted to do this, but this is the only way I could survive. So what this young man is doing in Zimbabwe is to say, let's take people out of economic misery and poverty and desperation, so that when politicians come, they can hold them to account without being told that if you vote for me, I'll bring a bag of mealie. I will vote with my stomach. But that's not democracy. And that creates the culture of patronage, political patronage. So, Generation X, let's take the responsibility, the country is ours. We can wait, like what others are suggesting, and hope that there will be a change at some point. At which point the country has been taken over by people who give us a secondary problem. And this has happened the world over. So the challenge is, as Zimbabweans, this is not asking you to go and invest in Zimbabwe. This is simply saying, the focus group is simply saying, as Zimbabweans in Manchester, can you get together and decide what you want and how you want it, and demand what you want as Zimbabweans? The country is yours. You should not be allowing anyone to take the diamonds without you being there, being part of it.
Where is the diamond going now?
Right. Thank you. We finished. Okay, thank you. Last three, please. Yeah? The gentleman there, this gentleman, and the lady. Oh, this gentleman.
I will start up. Like I said before that, I'm very grateful for this for this platform. Because this platform, we are focusing on Zimbabwe's economy. Us, the diasporans who are here in the Great Britain, because we know there's a potential of people who are in Britain to invest back in Zimbabwe. So I think this opportunity, it's focused to people who are business-minded. It's focused for people who want to bring change to Zimbabwe, irregardless of the circumstances right now. If people are willing to say, okay, we'll give them the benefit of doubt wherever it is, and they get moving, Zimbabwe can be changed. We know of countries which changed because of the people, not because of anybody. Because if we start saying, okay, the intellectuals must come, the economists and the like, what happens to the ordinary person? Because the ordinary person is the one who's supposed to bring change. That's why we say, now I'm fine, I can go wherever I want in the world. How about those upper parts, Lapana, do you get the point? So people of Zimbabwe, let us be one. Let's just give them the benefits of the doubt, because if we are to look at everything, some of the people who came in this country, we all know the goodness behind that. But now that we are here, let's restore Zimbabwe. Let's restore Zimbabwe. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt, and taking it on a Christian perspective. It says we'll be blessed. You'll be the head and not the tail. How do you become the head and not the tail? But by chipping in. By chipping in. So let us chip in. Because it's so unfortunate. We'll say, we were once there in that focus group sometime, and look, the very people, I know that person. Do you understand? So people of Zimbabwe, let's get up. Zimbabwe is a unique country. Zimbabwe is special. It's the breadbasket. It's still the breadbasket of the whole universe. Let alone to say the continent. So all this, what, them, no. Let's focus. Let's focus.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My contribution is that as Zimbabwe, we must learn to say, if we are in a forum like this one, irrespective of your MDC, ZAPU, ZAM, or what we are doing here is a Zimbabwean thing. Yes. It's something that is good for us as Zimbabweans, no matter our political differences. So what we are here for is to discuss or map up the way forward for Zimbabwe, as Zimbabwe, regardless of where you're coming from, or your beliefs, political or whatever. What you need to do is, what I've learned when I came to this country is, there is United Kingdom, whereby you've got Scotland, England, and Wales. They've got something that they unite as three countries to say this is a United Kingdom thing. And then there is a time whereby Scotland stands on its own, Wales stands on its own, and so on, and England stands on its own. And there is a time again when the United Kingdom goes to Europe as a European country and stands for the benefits of European interests. So the same thing with us as Zimbabweans. There are problems we have got as Zimbabweans back home and here in the diaspora. What we need to do is, let's find solutions how we can solve those problems first. And then let's have some action on what type of action needs to be done to solve those problems. Not to say every time we sit down, we start to say, what about this, what about this? That is not going to solve the problem. What we need to understand is we as Zimbabweans, whether MDC is going to run Zimbabwe next time, or whether Zambia is going to, we continue to be Zimbabweans. There's a time whereby I can change my tone when I'm attending an MDC meeting. I can change how I speak. There is a time when I'm in Zimbabwe Association, I need to change my tone. Then the other example that I also want to talk about is there are some economic powers which I mentioned, like India, like Brazil, like China. We see those people becoming economic powers. Why? It's because of their people who are in the diaspora. They have got a lot of immigration all over the world. And those people, they are bringing in wealth to their countries. And those countries, if those economies, if those monies getting to get used in their respective countries, we see them emerging as economic power. The same thing will happen to us. Imagine every Zimbabwean around the world sending $10 every week to Zimbabwe. How much do we have? Right? So we have got power as people in the diaspora if we sit down and say, what's the way forward as Zimbabweans? So as we are here as Zimbabwe, the Diaspora Forum, what we need to do is let's leave all our political difference behind. And let's just say, what do we do for our education system to go back in place? What do we do to cover up corruption? What do we do? Let's see our solutions to our problems.
Thank you so much. I take one last question, and there was this gentleman here. And then we move on. I know that some of they will come up when he presents the conference.
I would want to thank the forum very much, but I'll still go back to my first question, which I feel I've not been addressed so far. As we have invited the gentleman from the embassy, he's only addressing a certain portion of the investment. But yet the Zimbabwe Diaspora Focus Group involves a number of desks which we feel they should have come as a team. And those questions, the question which is burning is about the political balance back home. That's the whole issue which cannot be answered here, both by the leaders here and both by himself. So we are saying maybe as Zim Diaspora Focus Group, you have let us down on that. We should be having those answers. We are saying it's not certain. And people are still saying, how guaranteed is it now? You spoke to the minister in terms of investment, but he did not ask about his vote from here. He was talking of investment. You know, I'm telling what you've said. You were talking of investment to go invest back home, which means maybe you're looking at yourself. But you are saying you've got a vote, which is your right, which you have to speak back home there. That's what we want. As the Zim Diaspora Focus Group, let's be balanced off. Let's not look at the relish and then we leave the other side. For the South that go on, you have to have the relish and the South itself. Then it becomes a balanced diet. So let's be focused and let's have the full desk from the embassy to address our issues.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I think the ambassador will need to come to this forum at some point. Although he is also a civil servant, might not give us unless there was a time where we tried to organize a conference, but we didn't get much support from our fellow Zimbabweans, where we wanted to bring all the principals from the political parties, 5 political parties in Zimbabwe, to come and meet you as Zimbabweans, so that we talk to them. Yeah. So these are the kind of things, and if you are so passionate about it, we can even raise the question again when we meet with the emergency government, because it's to do with visas as well, as to who comes here, because at one point we wanted even Kaswekere. Sorry, I'm sorry.
So many questions for you.
Yeah, because investors had so many questions, but again there was this thing about, the visa is not allowed to travel. So these are the kind of things that as Zimbabweans I was saying, is it okay? Because now we are having a lot of ESA, and now we have had this fear of the unknown. Because now we always say, we hear rumor that the things are happening. We hear rumor about the dams, we hear rumor. I must confess that 3 weeks ago I was in Zimbabwe. And if I may tell you the stories that some of us, because I went there on my own fact-finding mission, some of the issues, they are true, but others, honestly, they are not true. So now, these are the kind of things, let's not bring our country down like what the other gentleman said there. We tend to bring...
Our leaders in Japan rely on all these people that come to the UK. These members knows all about their business. They do the same missions and all these things. They like the people. They never beaten at Leicester. Where is I in Leicester? Zimbabwe Diaspora Focus Group comes to Leicester, speaks to 140 people in a meeting. But in Japan goes to a meeting, speaks to 11 people in a meeting, right? Talking rubbish. Telebit was asked in Manchester about the diamonds, could not answer anything. What is the means of finance? They generally know what they are doing. The embassy people know exactly what they are doing, these people. Politicians in the embassy, these people, I tell you, they are tricksters.
Okay. Thank you so much. I know you can say some of these
What we want is access up to the embassy. Note, if we push to the limit, take it out to police them up to you. We want good points from you. Note, unopara kutaura zvataura izvo muchipindura namapoints. So zvezvo kuti vanhu vari kupinda kuSouth Africa nedini vanhu vari kubva munomu vachinosapoda vana muZimbabwe vamusingakwanisi kusapoda ino zvokuti munhu apinda nepahwindo apinda nepai. There is nothing. Let's be together. Kana vanhu vachinzwa vari kudzosera kuZimbabwe, don't sit imi muri kumaofisi ezana muri kumaofisi maembassy. Mufanira kumirira vanhu vafana kudzokera nekuti kumba kune nzara uye zvino tiri munomu tinokwanisa kusapota tiri muno iye zvino ndogona kuti munhu ari kudiwa kuhospitari kudiwa mari iri muno ndovhaivaenditsvaka ndiyowana nomba kukanani kumba ndaiwana zvino kana tauya munomu then you will see somebody running behind the South African. You worry about what does that mean? We are pulling down each other. We are not moving.
Exactly.
Mr. Kanini quick can tell my Mashoka,
Thank you so much. We have to move to the next item, which I think, again, your questions will be picked up from there.
When it's just changing, sorry, Madam Chair, the issue of the diaspora vote, again, goes back to Generation X. These guys, what they are doing is, there is commitment from most of the political leadership in Zimbabwe for that diaspora vote to be. But then they are tied because of the constitution issue. Everyone is simply saying, let's see what's going to come out from the draft. Because those that want the diaspora vote want proportional representation. Because in proportional representation, the whole country becomes one constituency. So the requirement for you to go and vote in your own ward is eliminated. So there are those kind of things that people are trying to work with. But then again, it's the voice, collective voice of the diaspora to continue to push, like other people that have got interest in the constitution are also pushing. I know you have seen reports recently. So it's one thing that we need to continue to push. But I wanted you to think that those at home who want diasporans to vote know that it can only be practical in the Zimbabwean sense if there's proportional representation, like in South Africa and other places. Because then you are no longer required to go and vote in that one school in your own ward. Because they are saying, they are arguing that if they abandon the concept of you having to go and vote in one place, you can have one person going to vote in many places, then that causes rigging. But if your name only appears in one area only, There's only one voter's roll where your name can be cancelled to indicate that you have voted. So there is more to it than what meets the normal eye. But if the whole country is one constituency with proportional representation, then we all can go to the embassy and they will just count one constituency and then count which party has got what percentage, and they will give the number of MPs that are equivalent to the percentage that they got. So I think that's why we need to think more as Zimbabweans about the actual consequences. Let's not give people an excuse to deny us the vote in the diaspora by also advocating for a system where they will simply say, you need to be in your constituency to vote. So it's your responsibility to come to Zimbabwe. No, because I won't be able to go there.
Thank you, Tom. Right, I now call upon Mr. Rodoya to give us an update on the hometown associations, which have been going around the country talking about it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lucia. If I can just say about the vote that you're talking about. Sometime last year, there was a Zimbabwe Constitutional Consultation Committee that was put in place here in the UK, and they traveled up and down the country to collect people's views about the Constitution. There were meetings that happened here, and there was a paper that was, we even met with COPAC, representatives, we met with Douglas Mwanzora and other people, because they couldn't come to the UK, we met them in Johannesburg. And the issues around dual citizenship, issues around women's rights, and all those sort of issues, minority rights, all those things were articulated in a paper, a position paper that we gave to COPAC, talking about those same issues. And if very quickly, before I go into what I'm saying, a lot of the issues that say you're talking about, we cannot address them because we are not a political entity. We are a civic organization. However, civic organizations are feeding into the political landscape as well. So when you talk about the embassy bringing people, coming to solve the embassy, the minister,
portfolio on immigration.
The ambassador cannot come. Yes, we've got a portfolio on immigration. Patson is here.
Patson is here.
Don't say I'm part of it. As long as the portfolio for immigration.
Yes, portfolio.
Yes, that's what, we are not denying that. But our position is not one where we're saying
this is not political, but you represent.
We are not saying you need to balance the political environment. That's down to the political parties. The MDC and so on can fight with ZANU-PF and say this is wrong, this is right. That is their domain. Our domain is to address things that we can address, which is why we've got the 12 portfolios, which have all got different remits around issues to do with civic requirements. But I'm not going to go into that in detail.
Let me just try and assist. No, your point was taken. I think that's the first point. Our role is to facilitate. We are not here to lead people we facilitate the discussion amongst the Zimbabweans. The voice becomes that of Zimbabweans. The solutions are the ones that are strung by Zimbabweans. Like he was saying, it is all about challenging us to live up to that level of expectation when you are doing these things. And what we are saying is, what we might not have highlighted is there are themes that are brought by Zimbabweans. And then we try and follow those themes. Last year, towards the end of last year, from September to December, there was a theme of immigration. There were many meetings that we did. There was consultation through the Zimbabwe Association. We were meeting the Home Office, trying to reverse the lifting of this moratorium to sending people home and all those kind of things. There are concessions that we were able to get in the process, but we were focusing on immigration then. What then happened was there were other meetings where Zimbabweans said, we want to focus now on finding out what the opportunities are at home. Because we continue to hear our relatives saying there's this, there's that, but we want to know if we wanted to be part of that, how can we be part of that? If we wanted to invest at home, is it safe? You know, all those kind of things. And our role is to facilitate. So we say to Mr. Charumbira, can you come and tell the Zimbabweans in Manchester what the embassy is doing, what the opportunities are? He might not have the answers, but at least he will give us the information we know he has. What we do with that information is up to us as a collective. People might decide it's not safe. People might decide it is safe. So what Rob is going to do now is explain the initiative of the hometown associations and what people might do. Because if you go on Facebook, you hear some people say, oh, my former school is in a sorry state, but I don't know what to do in order to help. Somebody else says, oh, the hospital where my mom was terrible, but I don't know what to do in order to help, and so on and so on. So the hometown association is part of the focus group work, but like you are saying, there's 11 portfolios. Anything that you want to be the driving force, when we get to action points, this is what will be addressed. When we go and meet Her Majesty's government, we then say to them, here are the priorities for Zimbabweans, and here is the voice of the Zimbabweans. So I thought maybe we had missed that.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
So that maybe you've lost your mandate.
No.